Well, hello again. It's Saturday morning, 20th of July 2024, and I thought that it was time for yet another Steve Mumbling 85 view viral video. I seem to be hemorrhaging subscribers as well. I've lost 2 subscribers. It's gone from 840 subscribers back down to 838. Now, with so few subscribers, this is a huge percentage, of course, of my viewing audience. So, yes, I'm not going to say like and subscribe. I really don't agree with all that sort of stuff. And this is not... I don't intend making this into a profession. Right now, but thank you very much indeed for the people that do subscribe. It sort of gives me some encouragement to keep going. You know, get a few likes. Because I can probably see the day, you know, when YouTube is going to say, well, let's have a look at this. Is a bit of an aside here. YouTube are going to say, well, you know, our cache space is filling up and filling up. Well, what sort of stuff can we get rid of? And they're going to say, oh, everybody with less than 10,000 subscribers, or you know, everyone with less than 5,000, or definitely everybody with less than 1,000 subscribers. Just dump them, just get rid of them. It's a waste of cache space. So I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen. But if it does, it does. You know. Can't do anything about that. I don't do anything on any other platforms. Right, so what have I seen this week that is worth commenting on? Now, I do look at Simon Holland's channel from time to time. I can't bring myself to call him Professor. It's okay for amusement, quite amusing. Short on science fact. He said he makes science films, but science fiction films is more appropriate. And he's been talking about these radio signals that have been found out in space. You know, he said one's got modulation on it. No, there's no evidence of that. I occasionally talk to people that are professionally involved in astrophysics and radio astronomy. Nothing in the community mentioned about any of this stuff. Certainly no excitement in the community about the BLC1 signal being anything other than a harmonic of a terrestrial clock. Anyway, Simon Holland is peddling the BLC1 band. He said, oh, they normally listen on the hydrogen frequency, where you can hear all this hydrogen. And, of course, they don't listen on the hydrogen frequency. For that very reason. They tend to listen in something called a water hole. Now, if you look at a spectrum analyzer, you'll see that hydrogen is on 1420 megahertz. You'll see a nice spike if you've got a big radio telescope. You'll see there's a nice spike, 1420 megahertz for the hydrogen. That's the hydrogen line. A bit further up the band, higher in frequency, there's the hydroxyl line at 1662 megahertz. Okay? And these two lines, the hydrogen line and the hydroxyl line, form what they call the water hole. There's also a dip in the noise floor through that region of the microwave spectrum as well. So it's a nice quiet piece of the microwave spectrum between the hydrogen line and the hydroxyl line. So you've got about 14 to 1600, you've got 200 and 240 megahertz between the two lines. That's a hell of a lot of bandwidth to look for any potential ET signals. And they thought if ET wants to attract attention, ET is going to put a signal between the hydrogen and hydroxyl lines. That makes a lot of sense. Aliens, technological aliens, are going to think logically. So chances are they're going to think it's a good idea as well. Now, Simon Holland was saying, oh, it wasn't in there because it was noise, you know, hydrogen noise. And that's why I haven't combed my hair again this morning. I've got to do my plastic professor impression. And he said, well, it's outside. It's not the hydrogen. It's on the BLC band. And of course, there's no such thing as the BLC band. There was a signal that was detected by the Parkes radio telescope while they were looking at Proxima Centauri, and it's on 982.002 megahertz, and it does move slightly in frequency, upwards slightly in frequency, very slightly. There's no modulation on it, and it's a very narrowband signal. And this caused a little bit of excitement at the time. They looked at it and they did lots and lots of research, and there was a comb signal, which just means there's a lot of spikes across the spectral display, very much like the teeth in a comb. And they thought this was local interference. They said, okay, well, this is not associated with the breakthrough listen. Oh, sorry, yeah, I should tell you what BLC1 is. Breakthrough Listen Candidate, BLC, signal number 1. It went to top of the list because it was, they initially were quite excited about it. They thought, wow, this is Proxima Centauri, it's a narrowband signal. It's not in the water hole, but it could be something else they're doing. I mean, we use that band, 982 megs. What's on that? It's the top end of the mobile phone band. It's probably between a couple of mobile phone bands. There might be some satellite up and downlink stuff in there. But it's not part of the radio spectrum where it's prohibited to produce signals, like the water hole. You know, you can't... actually, you can produce signals in there, but there are sections of it where they ask you not to. It's like the Skinwalker Ranch nonsense, you know, 1.611 gigahertz. Ooh. That, of course, would be in that would just be slightly lower, slightly LF of the hydroxyl line, but it's also an Inmarsat frequency, I think, for sat phones. Just put a line through anything from Skinwalker Ranch, it's just complete and utter rubbish. I mean, I saw Frugal the other day, and he was complaining about, I don't know, oh yeah, Sean Kirkpatrick saying that he was never at this meeting when in fact he was, but I would imagine that Sean Kirkpatrick either didn't really associate that with being specifically Skinwalker Ranch, or he was embarrassed to be associated with it because it was such a load of rubbish. But you could imagine, he was a private contractor at the time, I don't think he worked for the government at the time. But they contracted him to go along and have a listen, I think, to what was being said and see if there was any meat on the bones, and he said there wasn't. So that in itself is meaningless, really, but Frugal, of course, you know, he's got bits of, you know, baked bean cans at funny angles in glass cases around his flat, and this is as prototypes of a anti-gravity or free energy device, I can't remember which. Whatever it is, it's ludicrous. It's just scrap metal. You know, you might as well chuck it in the bin. It's not going anywhere. And I think he was been advised again by Hal Puthoff on this stuff. You know, and I've said before, anything with Hal Puthoff, personal opinion, just put a line through it. It's nonsense. Anyway, back to the BLC1 signal. So they thought it was interesting enough. They went straight. It went straight to number 1 in the Breakthrough Listen candidate charts. And they did lots and lots of research and compared it with other signals, and they off-axis, you know, looking at the signal off-axis. Now, what they didn't do, and they really should have done, there was 2 things they should have done, which would have saved them an awful lot of mucking around with all this. I mean, they've done considerable research on this signal. This would have taken a number of academics quite a long time to do. And it's all not, it was a waste of time, really, because all they needed to do was verify it with another radio telescope. They didn't do that. So Parkes was the only radio telescope used to receive this Breakthrough Listen candidate signal number 1. Big mistake number 1. I mean, if I had a radio telescope and I picked up a radio signal and I thought that it was narrowband and I thought that it might be ET, the first thing I'd do is pick up the phone and call Seth Shostak at SETI. I mean, I'm not on phoning Seth Shostak terms. I'd have to look it up, of course. But I'd say, Mr. Shostak, Dr. Shostak, please take a look at these coordinates and tell me if you can hear this signal. They didn't do that. Now, it was heard again. It was heard for a couple of hours, I think, on a couple of occasions in 2019. But anyway, what I was saying, what they did not do was verify it with another radio telescope, so it was only heard by Parkes. The other thing they didn't do, they came to the conclusion, and I'll give you the direct quote from the Nature Astronomy article that Holland actually references in his ET signal video. They came to the conclusion that it's not extraterrestrial technological a technosignature from an extraterrestrial civilization. After all this research they've done into it, but they didn't verify it with another radio telescope. And the conclusion they came to was that it was terrestrial interference, probably caused by a clock, because it's a harmonic of a common clock frequency used in digital equipment here on Earth, that just happened to be in the direction, it's a bit windy today, in the direction of Proxima Centauri. So when they knew Proxima Centauri was coming up above the horizon, they would spin the dish round, point it at Proxima Centauri, and they saw this signal. And they thought, that's interesting, perhaps it's coming from Proxima Centauri. When they concluded it was a terrestrial signal, but what they could have done at that very time was look in the direction of Proxima Centauri when it was below the horizon. Is the signal still there? So basically they're looking out across, but Proxima Centauri isn't going to remain still in the sky. As the planet rotates, you need to track it, and it tracks an arc of about 30 degrees. So what they should have done was just looked at that 30-degree angle in the direction of Proxima Centauri when it was below the horizon, to see if they could still see the signal. That would have saved them an awful lot of trouble, I think. But anyway, they did lots and lots of stuff, and it's quite an interesting report if you actually read it. 982.002 megahertz. It was drifting slightly higher in frequency, and it wasn't very much. They heard this signal in April and May 2019, and it was heard for hours, and 2 or 3 hours a time, I think, and the signal was never heard again. Never verified by another radio telescope. Never tried the other experiment with could they hear it when Alpha Centauri was below, or Proxima Centauri was below the horizon. Now, what do we know about Parkes radio telescope? Well, they got quite excited about these fast radio bursts they detected some time ago that turned out to be leakage from the microwave oven in the kitchen at the radio telescope. What was happening was people were pressing the button to open the door before the timer had gone bing. They were just so anxious, They were so anxious to get their food, they just couldn't take themselves away from their observations for long enough for the timer to go ping. So they had to press the button, door pinged open. Okay, now for that millisecond or so, there was a burst of microwave energy, and the radio telescope detected that. And that's what it turned out to be. So, that's Parkes. The guys at Parkes getting excited about their microwave oven. I think they probably changed the knowing the CSIRO, the Australian government, they wouldn't have bought a new microwave oven because the leakage only occurred when people pressed the door to open the door, and it took a couple of milliseconds for the shutdown to activate. They would have just changed the procedure. They would have said, anybody working there, wait for it to ping. That tells you that the magnetron is no longer active, there are no longer microwaves being generated, it's then safe to open the door and get your food. They would have introduced a procedure, something along those lines. So the quote from the article that Simon Holland actually references in his video, the Nature Astronomy article, is as follows. Here we present a procedure for the analysis of potential technosignatures in the context of the ubiquity of human-generated radio interference which we apply to BLC1. Using this procedure, we find that BLC1 is not an extraterrestrial technosignature. And if you read the article, it's quite an in-depth article, it's quite interesting, tells you exactly what they mean by that. But the bottom line is, the conclusion is that it is not an extraterrestrial technosignature. It's not an ET signal. Okay? So you can put a line through BLC1 as being a signal from ET. It's most likely a harmonic from a local piece of digital equipment with a clock in it. And again, although it was very narrowband in nature and it contained no modulation, so no information. He was talking about that the other day. I don't know if that was with relation to this one or with relation to another signal. Either way, no ET narrowband signal with modulation has been detected. Science fiction rubbish. Now I saw this other guy being interviewed. He's an ex-CIA guy apparently. Means nothing, of course. I mean, David Grush is ex-military, Lou Elizondo's ex-intelligence. So they're quite prolific with their science fiction stories. I can't remember this guy's name. It was something like Monty Minivan. And he claims we've got an agreement with ETs. We've got bodies and craft. No, we don't. Really? He claims to be a contactee, you know, and I've said before, you get all these contactees that can produce beautiful crayon drawings of their ET friends from the Pleiades or wherever they're coming from, Zeta Reticuli. What they can never produce is a selfie, you know, with them sitting at a little table like I am here, a patio table, you know. A couple of ETs either side, you know, with their thumbs up. They'd have to have thumbs, of course, because they would need physical dexterity to be able to build the technology to get here. You know, if they got that, they're not going to be able to, with 3 fingers, they're not going to be able to do that. So it'd be 2 thumbs up, you know, one from the ET either side. Typical of the sort of ridiculous, what do you call those things? People put for their videos. I can't remember what they call them now. You know, the sort of banner. When you look at the video, when the video is presented, they've got a banner. And thumbnail might be thumbnail. Yeah. A selfie with some ETs, just like the thumbnail. Never ever see that, do we? Never ever see that. It's just crayon drawings. He's also a mate of Bledsoe. He had a hand in Bledsoe's book. Personal opinion, complete and utter rubbish. And he was a co-founder, this Monty Minivan, of the TTSA. We know all about the TTSA. It all fell apart at the seams. Zero credibility. You know, send us your money, we'll build a starship. Lots of money was sent, no starship was produced. What a surprise. You know, you could knock me down with a feather. Complete and utter rubbish. Put a line through Monty Minivan. Personal opinion. Bassett is still peddling the old disclosure is coming. He was being interviewed as well. You know, the old disclosure is coming, chestnut. It's not. There's nothing to disclose. He says there's overwhelming evidence of ET coming here. Well, perhaps you care to show us some, Mr. Bassett. I haven't seen any. Show me some tangible evidence of ET visiting this planet. Peer-reviewed tangible evidence. I'll be happy to accept it. Until then, it's science fiction rubbish. He's been peddling this nonsense. He's been doing it since 1996. I've been looking into this since 1975. The deeper I look into it, the less I find. The less substance I find. All I find is science fiction piffle-peddlers. People like to feel special, you know. People are happy to lie about this subject, you know. Oh yeah, I get tea and scones with Friends from Zeta Reticuli every Thursday afternoon, you know. Or can we come and watch all the... What about a selfie, you know? You with your alien mates. No. How about coming to Arrow and telling Arrow your story so it can be thoroughly investigated and checked out? Hang on, I just need to get under the table. That's all we get from the Piffle-Peddlers. People are claiming alien downloads, for goodness sake, you know. And really, if you see a flying saucer, you know, and it's standing on 3 legs or 4 legs, you know, whatever you do, don't walk around underneath it, because you may indeed get an alien download. They've probably got a sign on board, you know, saying please do not flush while the spacecraft is on the ground. But there's going to be people that are not going to read the sign, or they're going to be distracted, you know. They read the Zeta Reticuli Times while they're sitting there, you know, they finish, get the paperwork done, and they flush, and then they, shouldn't have done that. Anyone underneath the flying saucer at the time, of course, what on earth is that? Are going to be victims of an alien download. Complete and utter rubbish. Bassett is also claiming that Grush and Elizondo are still getting death threats. Of course they are. There's got to be a reason why. There's got to be a reason why they can't tell their stories to Arrow, who can check them out and find out that they're rubbish. They have to perpetuate the science fiction rubbish by saying, well, death threats, I can't go and talk to anyone that can check it out. Someone might kill me. You know? And this is after they've all they've both been over over all these television channels, all those global social media platforms. Lou Elizondo had his own TV show, didn't he? If they were going to get... They would have been bumped off long before now if there was anything to this nonsense. Bassett was saying, well, you know, Grush... We shouldn't have been told that Grush has got mental health issues. That he was dragged out of his house kicking and screaming by the police and taken to the nut house. That should be kept secret, because he thinks that might damage his credibility. Well... Indeed it does. I think, and he thinks that, you know, if people have got mental health issues, it should be kept quiet. Now, I can understand his point of view, because he's a piffle peddler. He lives for this nonsense. He doesn't want anything produced that can damage the petering credibility that this subject has. It's getting worse and worse every day. It's petering out. The credibility for this is getting worse and worse and worse every day. More and more people are saying, I used to think there was something to this, but there's not. Obviously, it's a lot of rubbish. So David Grush apparently has a mental health issue that can affect his critical thinking ability. This is the one on top of being completely plastered, of course. All sorts of things. I know this fact they're coming here. Just let's have another Jack Daniels. Yeah, that might damage his credibility just a tad. But apparently he does have a mental health condition, and that mental health condition can affect his critical thinking ability. Eric Davies told him that he's been working on a recovered alien spacecraft. Grush laps it up and believes it. Oh yeah. Well, certainly gives us the impression he does. Haven't seen much of Grush lately. Maybe he's changed his medication. Did I really say that? Oh God, you know, gee. So, ETs are not coming here. Ask yourself what would be in it for ETs coming here. Nothing. There's nothing. There would be nothing in it for them. They're going to get no technological advantage, aren't they? They're going to get no biological advantage. They're not going to be interested in giving us technological advantage, because they don't. Looking around the planet and what's going on, you know, everyone's killing everybody else, and you know, wars going on, and you know, people are getting stabbed for a bag of crisps. They're not going to want this species developing the technology that will allow us to go and visit them. In fact, if they are keeping an eye on us, it would make sense that the reason for that would be they would be undetectable if they were keeping an eye on us. But they might want to make sure that we haven't developed the technology to go and visit them, because in our present state they would probably want to prevent that. They're going to say this species are dangerous. We do not want them coming to our planet, you know. So while their technology is far inferior to ours, we can prevent that from happening. That doesn't sound unreasonable to me. Coming here and abducting Bubba the Lumberjack, no, we're not going to be aware of it. Their remote sensing will be a lot better than ours, and our remote sensing is getting pretty good. So they would be undetectable. If they did turn up, if an alien spacecraft turned up, chances are it's not going to be privately owned. You know, it's not going to be like Han Solo turning up with a Millennium Falcon. Chances are travelling around the galaxy would be quite expensive. It would require a lot of resources. So it's probably going to be a vehicle from somebody's Starfleet, or for want of a better word, they might have a few of these things that go around and have a look around. If that is so, then it's going to be it's going to be a government vehicle. You know, it's going to be like an aircraft carrier or something like that. It's not going to be privately owned. They're going to be representatives of their species, and they're going to want to talk to representatives of this species. So if they come here, they're going to want to talk to a planet representative. They're not going to want to talk to, you know, one-armed woodcutter or a failed contractor or a lumberjack. They're going to want to talk to somebody representing the planet, and that's probably going to be the UN. And I think the UN have actually got someone put aside just in case this does happen, as their representative that would talk to any ETs that turn up. It's not going to be secret. It'll be on every social media platform. It's going to be on every radio and television channel. It would be impossible to keep it quiet. It's all this, you know, truth embargoes are complete and utter rubbish. So interstellar travel, personally, I doubt it. It may be that we get to colonise, and eventually we get some colonies out in our solar system. But when it comes to other planets going around other stars, it's going to take 78,000 years for Voyager, at its present velocity of about 36,000 miles an hour, to get to Proxima Centauri, the closest star to us, our closest stellar neighbour, 4 light years away. That is, galactically speaking, the garden shed. It's the shed at the bottom of the garden. But it would take Voyager 78,000 years to get there. These planets that they're showing interest in, 40 light years away, 780,000 years to get there at the speed of Voyager 1. So I really don't think interstellar travel is likely, personally. So I wouldn't rule it out until we have a good understanding of dark energy and dark matter and dark energy and gravity. I mean, we know what gravity is, we know how to measure it, but, well, we know how to measure it, I should say. We know how to predict it, but we don't really know what it is. So until there is a good understanding of those three things, gravity, dark energy, dark matter, I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's extremely unlikely that it would be possible for a crewed spacecraft, a spacecraft with a crew on it, not a crewed spacecraft, made out of pallets and lawnmower engines. I'm talking about a spacecraft with a crew on it to actually travel around the galaxy. especially out here. You know, more likely far closer in to the centre of the galaxy, where the stars are far more bunched up. Stars are a light week apart. But when you start talking about light years and many light years and tens of light years and hundreds of light years, I really don't think so. Intergalactic travel, as I said before, 2.5 million light years to the closest galaxy. Just put a line through it. It's not going to happen. It's just ridiculous. Sounds like something exciting is happening. I'll have to go and turn the TV on. See if there's anything on the news. So, yeah, I think that's about it. That's about it. Unless I see anything over the weekend, I might knock out another video before I... Actually, no, I'm not starting work Monday morning. I've got next week off. Woohoo! Next week off. Got quite a lot to do around the place. But I'll be relaxing and kicking back and watching a bit of YouTube in between. I don't look at these other platforms. So if I see anything that I think is worthy of comment, well, that needs to be commented on. Doesn't have to be worthy necessarily. Come to think of it, most of what I see is completely unworthy. It's complete and utter rubbish, but I do get a chuckle out of it, and hopefully you enjoy hearing my take on it. So as I said before, let's see if we can push this beyond 50 views. But as I've said before, I've got a handful of subscribers, but an awful lot of them are anonymous. So it may be that some of the key people in this business watch my videos, and if only they watch them, it's probably worthwhile. Obviously, the more the merrier. But most people that have my point of view, you know, they think this is all rubbish. They're not going to believe any of it until they see any tangible evidence. Don't need to watch someone like me giving them that same opinion. Whereas the people on the other side of the fence that lap this rubbish up, that live for it, yeah, they subscribe to all these channels that are putting out, well, you know, all kinds of science fiction rubbish. And of course the people putting out the science fiction rubbish are doing it for money, you know, for Google ad money, for appearance money, for TV program money, DVD, book sales. It's an industry. That's what it's all about, and they're trying to perpetuate that. Why wouldn't they? You know, with all kinds of claptrap, they're trying to keep people interested in spending money on listening to it. Whereas the chances of me making any money out of this, I mean, I doubt very much I'm going to get beyond 1,000 subscribers. If I did, I doubt that I think YouTube runs ads on channels these days anyway if they're watching them, don't they? If people are watching them. Regardless of whether you tick the monetise box or not, it's just that YouTube keeps the money. But I mean, with the amount of views I get, I would be lucky probably to get enough money to buy a bag of cheese and onion crisps at the end of the year. So I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. Good job that I really enjoy what I do for a living. It's more of a hobby really that I get paid for, but I wouldn't tell the boss that.